You are officially incinerator. Welcome to Incense and Common Sense, the live streams that we do here on the Alerts on TV. I would love for you guys and girls to become active citizens. Y'all already know how to do that. Shout out to everybody because this is a worldwide movement. This is going to be part two of Trump and the National Guard. Uh, it's the second part of MidDay Mania. Before I get started, I want to send my apologies to everybody. I'm sorry. Something came up that was unexpected and I had to stop the stream. I try not to give you guys less than stellar content. Sorry, life happened. As usual, I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to pile up in the room and hit the likes button as you come in. Also, if this is a subject that you don't feel comfortable listening to, that's fine. You can just bypass this particular live stream, or if you catch it on the replay. I saw somebody get angry with me in the first one. It's a rough conversation to have. It's a rough conversation to have, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. See? And what's going on, pause and play? I can speak on this because I went through it. That's why I decided to go ahead and do this. If you're new to this channel, if you guys and girls go back to my live streams a couple weeks ago, I did one about Richard Pennington and the National Guard and how the National Guard had to come into New Orleans back in the 90s. So, yeah, it's amazing that I talked about this and then this shit turned out that, Donald, I'm sorry about that. I had that fucking fly that's been aggravating me. Then Donald Trump comes in and the National Guard comes in and, you know, we'll talk once again. I'm not going to say I'm going to start everything over, but I'll kind of refresh y'all minds. So give y'all a couple minutes to get up in here. All right, what's going on? We got well dressed. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. As you come in, make sure you hit the likes button. That is definitely important. We fighting the algorithm. We just trying to get the message out there. Like I said, you know, so also, if you want to have products reviewed on the channel, hit me in the comment section during the replays. If you have any product, anything, get in touch with me and we can probably do some kind of business. All right, what's going on, Devil Gamers? How you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you coming through. Remember, as you come in, hit the likes, people. Definitely. Also, I'm a big promoter of Gun2. I'm a big promoter of, if this is not your channel, what's that, Sharisha? What's going on? How you doing? Hopefully I don't butcher y'all names. I'm a big supporter of Gun2. That's the genre I'm in. I always say if this is not the channel for you, that's fine. Find you a channel that's more aligned with what you're looking for, but support somebody. I name a motorcycle for Eddie. Okay, a Kawasaki 600 Ninja. There you go. Because usually you do that when you come in. Kawasaki Ninja. So, okay, yeah, we got 12 in. We should have 12 likes, but, you know, something I'm learning about these live streams, sometimes people come in and troll. I think that's funny. You know, I think that's funny. I understand the world we live in, and I don't take it personal. You know, all I ask is don't lie and say I said something I didn't say. Now, that is one thing I don't like. I had a guy do that on my last channel because I had a discussion about young offenders and the possibility of you having to put a young offender down, and that bastard got up on my damn video and said that I was encouraging violence against youngsters, and I've never advocated for violence. And me and the chat had to call him out on that, you know. On the old channel, they was eating his ass alive in the comment section about lying. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So I was talking about Trump and the National Guard and how this works. And I was making it clear to everybody, this decision the sky. Donald Trump didn't just wake up and decide I'm gonna send the National Guard in. This is something that has been a while in the making. Now I went around and I seen comments of people saying, well, DC's crime is at a 50-year low or whatever year low it is, and now you're sending the National Guard. Let me make this clear. A lot of these people that's angry about this is a diverse group. I know on TV, the news keep rolling black folk out. It's not only black folks saying this, because I've been in the comment section and talked to some of these different people. But right now, the MAGA base, everybody's interested in this Epstein thing. And that was the number one thing I kept seeing about Epstein. They don't want to hear nothing about no National Guard, but let's go ahead and talk about that anyway. Because this, like I said, this has some relevance to law enforcement. As a matter of fact, I'll do this live with y'all real quick. Let me Google this. Okay. So it says the makeup of the DC, this was in 2022. MPD, yeah. Says 52% of the officers are black. No, 52% are, yeah. 36 are white, 9 are Hispanic, and 4% are Asian. Men make up 78% of sworn personality, while women account for 22%. In comparison to the district's population, 43% black or African American, 39% white, and 4.8% of everything else. Well, actually 9%. All right. Just wanted to put that out there. But back to what I was saying earlier. Because we went through this in New Orleans, as a matter of fact, if you go to my Instagram, I posted a picture with a song playing. That I was going to be starting this at 1:30, and I posted a picture. Listen to the lyrics. There's a song on Juvenile Soldier Rag's album called Hide Out. It's him, Lil Wayne, and Turk on this song. He talks about how this came out in 98. Got Richard Pennington calling for the National Guard to come help him. Now, Bill Clinton was the president in 98. And the National Guard was sent to an American city because of crime, and there was no outrage. I remember those days. I remember back then. I can even remember a lot of the residents of New Orleans saying that they was in support of it. Why am I bringing this up? It's because I want you guys and girls to open your mind and just think. If you've never been in this position, don't just believe everything you see on the mainstream news, because they're going to show you a bunch of black folk complaining. They ain't going to show you the ones that was in agreements with this. I remember the news from back then. The local news, Channel 4, 6, and 8 for all my New Orleanians. That when it was talking about the National Guard coming to help because crime was out of control, and Richard Pennington, I think in the city of New Orleans, oh yeah, I definitely got a lot of people dropped out because they don't want to hear this topic. That's okay. I'm going to give you this work anyway. I'm going to give you this nutrition. Like I said, this is the nutritious channel. So this is the Brussels sprouts and cauliflower that hasn't been pickled. This is the Brussels sprouts and cauliflower that's been pulled out of the garden, washed off with some water, and is being fed to you. No seasoning. And I know you don't like it, but I'm going to damn give it to you. So anyhow, I remember people around the city supporting the National Guard coming in because it was so rough. As far as I know, Richard Pennington, we had more cops indicted under him than any other police chief in the city of New Orleans as long as I can remember. If I'm wrong, you guys and girls can correct me in the comment section. But that says a lot about the DC police. Because as I told you guys and girls, this can't happen. You can't have this much of crime without them participating. I have yet to see anybody talk about that blue wall, that blue wall that's up that thin blue line. I don't know what goes on in the DC police department because I don't live there. What I'm giving you guys and girls is how these decisions come about. And in New Orleans, we didn't go to sleep and wake up one day and this happened. That had been a telegraph move for a while. Richard Pennington knew the city was out of control. In '98, Moron Morial was the mayor. And Moron Morial was the mayor. And he was losing grip on the city, so the National Guard came in for a while. I've even detailed in my live stream about the process of being stopped, and when law enforcement stop you in OPD, how the National Guard will pull over with them. So that's the thing. So for those of you who live in the DC area, if you see this, do your research before you publicly make a statement and blame this specifically on Donald Trump, because this didn't just fall out of the sky. I want you guys and girls to know that. I grew up in the city of New Orleans that basically, for the most part, all of the city council, all the people that made the decisions was black. So I know that's racializing it, but I'm just throwing it out there to you. Donald Trump just didn't wake up and decide, I'm going to just send the National Guard. There's a lot more people behind the scenes, behind the levels of power, that look just like you and me, that was okay with this, and they understand they need to help. The only difference in New Orleans is our police chief was honest enough to be transparent and say why he needed the help. And so that's kind of how that goes. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, everybody. Waiting on an important phone call so I can go pick my damn truck up from the shop so I can get back to work. So since I've been home, I just decided I'll go ahead on and do some of these live streams. Nevertheless, I'm sorry. Richard Pennington was transparent enough to come and talk to everybody publicly about why this decision was made. And I understand that. On top of everything else, probably being man hours, and at the time, NOPD didn't pay all that well, so a lot of officers worked these detail jobs off the clock. They had side jobs that they went and worked in, like the whole thing, the Antoinette Frank fiasco of her pulling off what she pulled off. A lot of officers did that outside of their shift. They went and worked for private businesses as security or what have you. So that's kind of how that happened. But yeah, I just wanted everybody to know, do your research, and for the law enforcement and the law city council, all those types of people in DC, at least be transparent with the people and say why you did that. What's going on, Andrew? Just sitting here chit-chatting about how this thing came about with Trump and the National Guard. And it didn't. First off, he telegraphed this in his first presidency about Chicago. But second off, it didn't just happen overnight. I know he's the president, and people gonna feel like he jumped over a lot of people and decided to make this decision. Local government in DC is more involved in this than they're willing to tell. What they're worried about is because Donald Trump is quote unquote a Republican president, which everybody know he was a Democrat. He ran as a Republican because he said the Democrats already had the party rigged and they wanted Hillary to be the nominee. But nevertheless, now it's unacceptable. But I remember, I'm old enough to remember back when we went through this when Bill Clinton was the president, there was nobody screaming and hollering and falling out and talking about why would you bring the National Guard to New Orleans. Hell, there was people out there talking on the news about we need this because crime is out of control and these young people is out of control and we need help and what have you. You know what? I'm going to say this. The state, what's going on, White Rambo? The state, that crime is down. I would have to investigate that. I would say this. People who live there that's activated, nothing much, just dropping some knowledge about the whole Trump thing. Look, like I said, whether you like Donald Trump or not, and I know a lot of people have their grievances with him. I'm just talking specifically about this particular issue because I've been through it. And where this is going to affect the 2A community is, now you got law enforcement there with the National Guard to back them up. So you're going to have to be careful about how you navigate this, because when they would pull us over, NOPD, the National Guard dudes would jump out with guns on them. You know what I'm saying? I know people say that, I thought they ain't supposed to have guns. The hell they don't. That defeats the purpose of them coming down there if they going to come unarmed. They came armed. So I just wanted you guys and girls to understand, we've all been told to have a disdain for Donald Trump, and trust me, I have some issues with him as a politician. But having gone through this, it's my job here as the Nutritious Channel and GunTube to let you guys and girls know there's more to this. This man didn't just wake up and think this, and there's more people that may not come publicly because Donald Trump is president. If Joe Biden had been president and this happened, everybody that's in support of this would have came out. You know what? This whole martial law thing, it's not a far-fetched idea. I'm not saying people crazy for having this discussion. I'm just saying that I've been through this and I know where it came from. Because in the Times-Picayune, instead of reading the front page of who got robbed or shot or stabbed last night, I would actually open the newspaper and fucking read about a whole bunch of different things. So this is how I knew what was coming down the pike. And what I'm saying to all our DC people, you know what? Here's the problem about getting out of the cities. A lot of times people move and they bring their habits with them. So you wind up exporting the very same thing you're trying to get away from. We'll talk about, just for a minute. If you look at all these gang documentaries about LA, look at how many parents, how many guys or girls that became gangbangers said, our parents moved to Pomona or they moved to Riverside or whatever to get away from that. But their children was already bit by the bug, so they just exported it. When people don't move, when a large number of people don't all move for the exact same reason, somebody's gonna bring their habits with them. You understand what I'm saying, White Rambo? I know what you mean. But what I'm saying is, people bring their habits with them. So if a person is used to stealing, Guess what they just brought to your quiet neighborhood? They brought us a burglary problem. Now all they trying to do is figure out whose house the case and how to get in there. Drug addicts, they export that. Yeah. That 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 is a good idea on the surface, but it's kind of like breaking up a particular area that's known here in the town I live in, over by JBS. That was known as the side of town where all the shit went on, all the drug activity, whatever little violence, what have you. And the tornado came and destroyed a lot of the houses in that part of town. And at first, law enforcement was saying that they was happy with that because they wanted to get them people out of there. Here's the problem. Those people didn't want to leave Marshalltown, so they spread the problem. Sometime, unfortunately, what I'm about to say, some of y'all may or may not agree with it, but I'm going to say it. Sometimes it's best to keep a problem corralled than to let it spread. Because negativity spreads faster than positivity. So when you take a group of people that's known for a specific behavior and you let them or move them out of this area, or a disaster runs them out, that doesn't mean their bad habits gonna stay there. Their bad habits goes with them. Then you start having crime in other places where people said they didn't have this kind of a stuff. I mean, Eric and Lyle Menendez, I'm always gonna point that out. Before they killed their parents, they would brag about the home burglaries they were pulling. You know what I mean? And those two kids had it all. So yeah, if you can afford to move and get out in the country, or get somewhere where you're not so far away from the city, but you got your land to go with your house, do it. But in today's world, that's very hard. It's hard to save anything when your apartment, you got a 1-bedroom apartment and you're paying $1,500, $2,000 a month. Some of these rents is through the roof. You can't save when every penny you make goes to keeping a roof over your head and food on the table. It's just that hard sometimes. But yeah, in theory, you're right, White Rambo. The only thing I push back on that is, why are people moving? Because some people flee a particular problem and they know their kids are the problem children, so they just fucking export the problem. But yeah, with this whole DC thing, with this National Guard thing, we're gonna see how this turns out. My advice to the government of DC, and I don't mean the federal government, I mean the local government that's in charge of their local politics and what have you. Be more transparent about why this is even a thing, and be honest. That's the one thing I can say about us in New Orleans. Richard Pennington was honest about why he did what he did. Whether he liked it or not, at least he was very transparent. And like I said, because it was a Democrat city and because we had a Democrat president, it was okay for that to go on. Nobody called Bill Clinton anything. Just here chopping it up. Just talking about this whole DC thing. And where this catches us in the 2A community, like I said again, there's a possibility you may get stopped by the National Guard, or they may intervene in a traffic stop. It's a little bit different. I've been through it. That's why I'm giving you guys and girls the heads up on how to deal with this, because you always have to remember one thing. We legally armed. These National Guardsmen, a majority of them are not trained to do police work. They're supposed to be there as a show of force and in support of local law enforcement. Here's the thing. Local law enforcement Yeah, yeah. I can honestly say, um, New Orleans, yeah, a lot of stuff tampered down because of the National Guard, but the National Guard was there as a support system, so the police chief can go after a particular problem that he said was a big problem. For those of you who don't know the story about Richard Pennington, I did a video about it, a live stream, but I'll tell you again. When Richard Pennington got named the police chief, he came to New Orleans from D.C. When he got to be named the police chief, he made it clear, we cannot, sorry about that, everybody. He made it clear, we cannot fix this problem until we fix law enforcement, until we get our officers in line. I know there's a lot going on with NOPD. I've been briefed on it. Not only did when Richard Pennington come down, he wound up calling in the National Guard eventually, he had the feds in town. Everybody thought the feds was just there watching the street dudes. They was watching law enforcement. And that's why so many of them got prosecuted. I think at the time the U.S. attorney was Jim Letton. I'm not a whole 100% sure, but nevertheless, that's why he had the National Guard to help him. It was rowdy, but he didn't have the right people patrolling the street, because think about it. Crime is crime, and you only can do so much. But how can you have so much crime in the city where every other car in the worst neighborhoods is a cop car? That can't happen. You can't have every other car be a cop car. You can't have in the places they say is the worst parts of the town. You can't have in every project in the city an actual police substation and it still be all that's going on. They got to be involved with this. One thing about law enforcement then, they didn't make a lot of money. All this drug money and all this stuff that they was getting, these little kickbacks, you got to spend that money somewhere. Well, where does the average human spend it? On things he or she wanted that they couldn't afford. I remember some of the dealers. Yeah, 5 district did. District 5 was the Ninth Ward, right? Was that the Ninth Ward? District 5? Pause and play. I know we was in the 6th district in Central City. Yeah, and District 5 had Lynn Davis and his little gang of thugs running around down through there. And his reputation was so bad, we knew about him uptown. For those of you who don't know the makeup of the city of New Orleans, uptown and downtown. I was from uptown and we knew about Lynn Davis before that incident happened with Kim Groves, RoboCop. Damn near everybody in the fucking city knew who he was, because his reputation was just that nasty. On top of some of these other cops that had these nasty reputations. And I'm just telling you guys and girls, I don't live in DC. I don't know what all the problem is. I know what the TV chooses to show. I know the TV don't always show everything. Where I come from is a little bit different. But I'm just saying, there's more to this story. And I knew how this came about where I used to live. So I'm just giving you guys and girls the information. You're welcome to do your own research. If I'm wrong about something, correct me, because I'm not above correction. But I know how this got started in New Orleans, and I'm just looking at the contrast that it happened under a Democrat president, and everybody was in favor of it. Now that it's happening under Donald Trump, all of a sudden it's a racism thing and this and that. Now, I do say this about the news. If you're going to tell the crime, tell the full crime stats. Don't pick and choose what crime you're going to tell. Tell a crime about everybody or just shut up. What's going on, Nehemiah? I'm just chilling, man. Just trying to get through this this portion of the live stream. Like I said, it was kind of impromptu. I didn't plan on being home today. I decided to do it, and as you guys can see, I got a lot going on. But I still want to give you guys and girls my 2 cents about this whole thing, just because having gone through it, I know there's more to the story than what you see on the news. And the news is gonna just show all. I've seen all these stories. I've seen all these. Yeah, I've seen all these stories, and I've watched the narrative that they've put out there. I was just letting everybody know, if you've never been through it. How do I feel about him targeting homeless people? Let me tell you how I feel about that. I feel that the local government failed homeless people. Let me be honest about something, so you guys and girls can understand where I'm coming from. The amount of things that the government has let corporations get away with. Because now you got Blackstone and BlackRock that's allowed to buy up entire neighborhoods. That's illegal, but they're allowed to buy up entire subdivisions and build homes that's only for rent, which means they control the market. A lot of people that's homeless are not crazy, and they're not drug addicts. A lot of them have jobs. They just can't afford rent. Think about this. If you make, let's just say $15 an hour. I'll just throw that number out there. And everywhere you go, a 1-bedroom is $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 a month. And you got to make 3 times the rent to get that apartment. Well, guess what? You ain't going to be able to get it. On top of the rising energy costs and everything else. Nancy Pelosi, for all my Californians, if you've never been to the state of California, the government, the state and local governments out there, they ruined that state. As beautiful as the scenery is in California, I read something last year, beginning of this year, that said the average price of a mortgage in California is $4,600 to $6,000 a month for a mortgage. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you got people being allowed, you got companies being allowed to buy entire neighborhoods and entire apartment complexes. That starts homelessness. Yeah, man. I mean, that start and I've seen it with my own 2 eyes, and I was like, my goodness. I mean, it's so bad that, and just ordinary neighborhoods, you see campers on the side of the streets with extension cords going in people's houses. You see tent cities, you drive along the side of the interstate, and it look like mansions built out of cardboard and wood. So, I mean, you guys and girls know the story of Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom basically ethnically cleansing and making San Francisco unaffordable, to the point where you got luxury apartments in San Francisco that the rats then took over because nobody can afford to live there. This crazy amount of and the problem is, it's gotten so far out of control, and it's gotten so far out of hand. And look, this is a bipartisan agreement right here when it comes to that. When the Democrats are in office, they don't enforce the laws to go after making that illegal, and the Republicans don't either. I mean, there's a corporation in Atlanta, I think they said they own 30-40% of the city's real estate. And homeowners talk about how when these groups are allowed to buy these neighborhoods up, how they're the worst houses because they don't have people come in and keep the maintenance in on them. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, I mean, look, the human body needs food and water in order to survive. In order to keep a good mental on your head, you need shelter, comfortable shelter. People gonna do what they need to do to survive. I remember after Hurricane Katrina, when all them people was allowed to come back to, as we started coming back into the city, you had people living on Claiborne and Canal under the bridge, living by City Hall. We would go down through there from time to time with our little meager resources, and we would feed people. And I remember sitting down and talking to some of these people, and I mean all their belongings was out there, and they would talk about. I remember meeting people who said they had 2 and 3 jobs, but they couldn't afford to live there no more. Because for those of you who don't know, before Hurricane Katrina hit, you can find a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment in New Orleans East, which was kind of like the upscale middle class, kind of like the middle class, where you had carpet, central air and heat, and all that shit. You can find those all day long for $500-600 a month. In the city, shit, you get a 2-bedroom for $350-400 every month. After Katrina, them prices quadrupled. And you know what the landlords was telling people as they was coming back? We competing with Section 8. So if you tell them, okay, you used to rent it for $450, I'll give you $9. They'll tell you why Section 8 gonna give me $12. So all the people living under the bridge that was homeless were not drug addicts, and they were not bums. I was sitting down there. I've been down there to talk to them personally, me. Literally, those were those people's homes until Mardi Gras came. The city found somewhere for everybody to go like that. When the city was saying they didn't have no resources. Once they knew they can have Mardi Gras again in 06, shit, like that. Then people disappeared. Overnight. People just don't understand. Yeah. When all that stuff came, real quick they got them out of there. So the city has the resources. The city has the resources. I just think that we've just let politicians get so far, and we've let things go on for so long that the country is cannibalizing because of greed. And hold on one second. Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that. I don't know how to put the live streams on pause, so I'll just put something up to keep y'all company. Back to what we were saying, so this whole National Guard thing is more to it. If you guys and girls will just research and listen to me, you might not be so triggered. A lot of these headlines on YouTube and on the national news and stuff is to trigger you. It's to trigger an emotion. I'm telling you from experience, this decision didn't just happen overnight. There's more people that's in support of this decision than they'll say, only because Donald Trump is the president. Because it happened under a Democrat. I'm telling you. Yeah, Bill Clinton didn't have to send for him. But you know what? Bill Clinton could have said no, too. In 98, was it Mike Foster? Who was the governor? Let me see. Y'all bear with me. Um, Give me just a second here, everybody. I'm sorry about this. 'Cause I want to make sure. Okay. Back in 98. Yeah. Mike Foster was the governor. We had a Republican governor when this happened. And there was no outrage. The only outrage about this is because it's Donald Trump. And the world has been taught that anytime the man opens his mouth to have something negative to say about him. Look, you ain't going to agree with a politician on everything. You can't get everything you want from a politician. With that being said, like I said, just because I know the process and I remember how this happened, I remember the chatter was going on about the National Guard before they actually showed up. And I can almost guarantee you, if you live in the DC area or if you live anywhere in the country, because Google is here now, you got all kinds of access to information. If you stop looking at the triggering headlines, go in the comment sections, go and pull up some of these articles and stuff, these local articles, it'll tell you. It'll tell you where these ideas came from. And how many people are in support of it. Like I said, there's more people that's in support of this than they're willing to say. Here in GunTube, there's a lot of us in GunTube that's in support of it because we talk about being prepared in case something happens. I say this. If you don't want the National Guard in your city, get all the people that are able to be legally armed, send them here so they can get the legal part, at least the foundation of the legal part. Come and get the nutrition they need here so they know how to protect themselves and how to stay within the confines of the law. And criminals won't be going around carjacking when they know 9 out of 10 cars got a gun in them and a person that'll blow their brains out. If we don't get legally armed, you're going to always be, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have people that's going to call out for help, and sometimes help is going to be help you don't agree on. You know what I mean? During the search and rescues and stuff after Katrina, yeah, I had my issues with some of the stuff the National Guard did. But nevertheless, I just wanted to talk to everybody about that and let you guys and girls know that this didn't just fall out of the sky. There's more to the story than you may know. And I can speak on this because I went through it and I'm old enough to remember how it got started and why. All I say is to the DC and all I say is to the local government of Washington, D.C., be transparent, be bold enough, male and female enough, man and woman enough to come up and say, this is why we came up with this. Because we in New Orleans know where it came from. Like I said, Richard Pennington made it clear. He needed help cleaning NOPD out so he can clean up the streets. And if he can't clean the people that's patrolling up, he's never going to clean the streets up. Because they the ones that's out there in the streets. For those of you who don't know again, and the very first officer he disciplined, wind up having to be part of disciplining, was one of the worst officers to ever walk the face of this earth, Lynn Davis. As Chief Pennington was being sworn in, they walked up behind him and whispered in his ear about that beating that Lynn Davis and his partner did on Kim Grove's nephew, which ultimately led to her unfortunate demise. Rest on to you, Miss Groves, and led to him finally being snatched off the streets, and him, and I think he took 20 of them with him. And after that, it was just, they say shit rolls down the hill, and it wasn't nothing after that to start hearing about these cops that was doing this with these little girls. I mean, all the stories started coming out. So The escorting of the cocaine in and out of the city, the escorting of the containers coming off the port that's full of drugs to these warehouses and all that. All the stories start coming out publicly because people who lived knew people in the streets. You already knew the stories, and if you lived in certain neighborhoods, you would see it. So you already knew what was what. You would see them pull up, and guys go up to their car and drop off money to them, and they will talk about it when different officers when they drive off about how that motherfucker make me sick. Oh, so and so coming, yeah, man, go. He here to pick up his money. You know what I'm saying? So I understand why it happened in New Orleans. I don't know why it's going on in D.C. If they're not gonna tell you, I say do your own research, so you don't be outraged and be talking like some kind of a crazy person because Donald Trump is the president. Because at the end of the day, D.C. have their own government. This is not federal overreach because they probably, like I said, are more involved in this than they're willing to say. They just can't say it because it's Donald Trump and it's gonna look bad. With that being said, I'm gonna let everybody get out of here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I don't know what I'm gonna do the next stream, but stay tuned. Watch. Yeah. Yeah, so with that being said, everybody, hit me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Make sure you sub to the channel and all that. And until next time, stay safe, stay armed, stay on high alert, and we out.